Hi everyone. Today I'm going to read you chapter 13 of my book, Wildmoore, Wrath of Zane. We're almost to the end, so I hope you enjoy. Chapter 13, Celebration and Goodbyes. A full day had passed since Zane's demise, and the whole village gathered at the Wildmoore Kingdom, where the guardian dragons, Asher, Tristan, Dottie, Leofric, Beatrix, Modesty, the Forest Warriors, Forest Knights, the Wolves, and finally Natalie are all attending as Queen Harley and King Ulrich stood to the castle courtyard's podium. Queen Harley was the first to speak. As many of you may have been informed, Zane is defeated thanks to the valiant efforts of the Quarter Species, Knights, Warriors, and Natalie. But because he would rather choose death than be imprisoned, Zane has come to his demise caused by Maurice, who is no longer in league with the Beings. Despite all of yesterday's events, our world will finally live in peace and harmony once more. And to celebrate this occasion, all humans and animals will participate in the Golden Rose Festival. Everyone cheered in pure joy for the first time in 13 years. And Natalie couldn't help but smile as she could see for herself what this world was like before the Dark Warlocks had attacked the land. A few hours later, at the Paulwood Village, the Golden Rose Festival is in full swing. Children playing games with some of the baby animals in Barlow. The knights riding horses to participate in the jousts, while others were drinking their celebratory cheers at the Hawk Feather Tavern. And everyone sampling delicious bread and pastries at the market. Natalie watched with a huge smile on her face, seeing all of these people finally feel happy and safe as their world was finally safe from harm. Forthwith, Tybalt and Thea approached the girl when Thea replied, "Quite a gathering, isn't it?" Natalie nodded and said, "Yeah, it just feels nice to see people smiling for a change." Forthwind nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, it is a nice change of pace. You know, you and our brother can join in on the fun. From what Tybalt and I have heard, Skip the Stone is a rather exhilarating game," Thea said with a smile on her face. Curious, Natalie turned to the purple dragon and asked, "What's Skip the Stone?" Forthwind grinned and said, gently nudging Natalie forward, "Let's go join the children and find out." Forthwind and Natalie joined a group of village children where there was a fountain in the middle of the village. And to Natalie's amazement, when the little girl threw a stone in the water, the stone started to skip around in circles multiple times before sinking into the water. Suddenly, a younger village boy handed Natalie a stone, gesturing for her to try the game. After receiving a reassuring nod from her guardian dragon, Natalie took the stone, and with a flick in the wrist, the stone skipped around the fountain for about 12 times before sinking into the water. After that was done, the village girls squealed in excitement, "You did it! Your stone skipped the most. You won the game!" The young village boy skipped over to a flower bed and gently plucked a lovely white rose before racing back to Natalie and handing her the rose. "Here's your prize, Miss Natalie." Natalie smiled at the boy and said before taking the rose, "Thank you so much." Elsewhere, Tristan saw his father looking at the joyous scene, but he looked far from happy. Curious, Tristan trotted over to his father and asked, "Father, how come you're not smiling? The Dark Warlocks are now gone, and our world is at peace." Asher scowled at his son and replied, because our wretched mundane is still alive. For all I know, she set up the whole fight with the warlocks before she could kill us all herself. Tristan was taken aback by his father's words, but he quickly recovered and replied, Father, she defeated Zane. Sure, she didn't kill him because it is against her morals, but she spared his life so he will live in the dungeon for the rest of his life. Of course, Maurice killed him before that was planned to happen, but still, which is all an act, son. You are so naive to think this girl is on our side, when in actuality, she's nothing but a witch in league with the warlocks, Asher snarled. Tristan knew his father was still upset after what had happened 13 years ago. But that was all over now. That the warlocks were gone. Because all the members were now at Eviction Valley, which, while Maurice was placed in the dungeon for Zane's murder with the possibility of being let out within 2 years. Father, you mustn't be so paranoid. The warlocks are all gone, thanks to Natalie and the rest of us, so we can finally live in peace now, Tristan assured his father. Asher looked over to see Natalie being given the white rose by the younger village boy with a vengeful glare, and said, It will be a peaceful place once I am done with that witch. Suddenly, Asher bolted away and was about to pounce on Natalie so he could rip her apart with his teeth. But he was stopped by Tristan, who pounced on his father himself. Natalie turned to see this shocking scene and immediately pushed the village girl and boy behind protectively. Father, are you mad? Tristan snarled. Get off me, son. I am trying to kill that witch. She orchestrated this whole ruse. She is in league with those horrid men. And if no one, not even the king and queen, is going to do something to get rid of that monster, then I will do so, Asher shouted. That's enough, Asher. A voice boomed from beside Natalie and the two young village kids. Everyone turned to see it was Queen Harley, who looked at Asher with pure disappointment and anger. She had witnessed and overheard everything Asher had done, and she could not let Asher cause such a scene even further. She turned to Natalie and the younger village kids and replied, Children, head home to your family. And Natalie, meet me at the castle at once. Your Majesty, Natalie tried to protest. Now, Natalie, Queen Harley said with a firm tone. Natalie knew better than to argue with her, so she gestured for the kids to go home and headed to the castle. Forthwith, after witnessing what had happened, he followed his human counterpart. He caught up with Natalie and asked, Are you all right? Natalie nodded and replied, Yeah, but I don't think Asher will be. After waiting in the castle lobby for a bit, Natalie and Forthwith stood up to see Queen Harley enter. Forthwith was the first to ask, What was going on with Asher? Queen Harley answered, Apparently, Asher still believed that Natalie is in league with the Dark Warlocks, and he attempted to kill her himself. Luckily, Tristan was able to stop him before it happened. Natalie let out a discouraged sigh and said, Even after all that, he still doesn't believe that I'm the good guy. What did you tell him? I have tried many times to tell him that you are no threat. But he couldn't hear a word and vowed to kill you if you came out of the castle. So since he let the paranoia get to him, as well as the superstition towards magic, he is no longer a member of the Court of Species, and is exiled to Eviction Valley for treason and attempted murder, Queen Harley said. Then a voice replied, Asher tried to murder my daughter? Everyone turned to see Thomas enter the castle, but Natalie quickly assured him, Dad, I'm okay. No harm is done. I'm just glad that Tristan intervened when he did. Are you sure? Thomas asked. Natalie nodded in reply before Queen Harley said, but now that Asher is in exile for what he had done, a position in the Court of Species is open for you, Natalie. That is, as if you want it. Natalie was honored by this offer, but then something stopped her before she could reply. She thought of her life back at human Earth, her school, Miss Stanford, and finally her Aunt Mari, and all the things they had gone through together after her mother had died. Despite everything she learned from here, and the friends as well as enemies she had made, her home is still on human Earth. Her whole life is on human Earth. Finally, Natalie turned to Queen Harley and said, with all due respect, Your Majesty, I think I've been away from home long enough. Thomas was saddened to hear this and asked, You want to go back to human Earth? Natalie turned to her father and walked up to him before she replied, My whole life is on human Earth, Dad. If I stay here any longer, my aunt would be worried sick. And I know you can come with me because your life is here. And it wouldn't be fair for me or you if you decide to come with me. Thomas wanted to argue, but suddenly stopped himself because he knew his daughter was right. Her home was human Earth, and she had to go back. He knew he couldn't stop her from leaving. Later in the afternoon, Natalie changed back into her old clothes, which was all clean thanks to the castle staff. Amelia and Madeline visited the castle where Natalie was temporarily staying. Gathered everything you needed? Amelia asked. Natalie turned to the two sisters and answered, Yeah, but I can't seem to find my book bag anywhere, though. Madeline gave her a grin and said, Oh, you mean this book bag? Madeline pulled out Natalie's book bag from behind her back. Natalie grinned and said, How in the world did you guys take it? Actually, the Queen told us to give it to you because she knows that it meant a lot of value to you. Especially your journal and the photo of yourself and your mother. Amelia said before Madeline handed the girl her book bag. Natalie zipped open her book bag, and she was glad to see that everything was still in there. Her journal, the photo of herself and her mother, and finally, the never-ending story. I even read that book you were reading to Barlow. It's quite an interesting read for the child of a forest warrior and knight, Madeline said. Natalie then noticed the attitude change in Madeline. She looked a bit happier and less distant. So Natalie said, You definitely changed your tune the first time we met. Well, now that Zane and his men are gone, we are finally able to live the life we want. And both Ackerley and I rekindled our romance. Hopefully there is a future for both of us. Madeline replied. Natalie nodded and said, There is hope for you guys. I'm just glad to see everyone happy and smiling. That's all that matters to me. Amelia smiled at the girl's words, causing her to walk up to her and place a hand on Natalie's shoulder before she said, We are truly going to miss you, Natalie. Your mother would have been more than proud of what you had done for us. Natalie's smile changed to a bittersweet one and she said, It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Now, Amelia released her hand from Natalie's shoulder and asked, Shall we head to the forest so that your father can use this crystal to send you home? Natalie nodded and said, "Yes, let's go." At the clearing of the forest, where Natalie arrived the first time, everyone gathered as Thomas pulled out his crystal. A rocky cave formed, and it was much larger than the one Natalie had arrived in before. Natalie walked up beside her father and said, I guess this is it." Thomas said with a very sweet smile, "Yes, I believe it is." Fourth one walked up to Natalie. The girl turned to face her faithful guardian dragon. She gently petted his furry face and said, "You will be with me, always, always, my friend." And the fourth one replied, and their foreheads briefly touched. Barlow trotted up to Natalie next, and the girl bent down to hug the little wolf pup. Barlow whimpered, "I will miss you forever, Natalie." Natalie was heartbroken to hear the wolf pup say this, but she assured him, "Hey, it's okay, Barlow. I will come back one day, and I will see all of you again." Barlow asked, "Do you swear?" Natalie nodded and replied, "I promise." She gently scratched the wolf pup's ear before standing back up and turning to Rolf, who walked up towards her with Rhea trailing behind him. "Thank you for saving my son, Natalie. I don't know what I would have done if I had lost him from those men." Rolf replied with gratitude swelling up in his eyes. Natalie smiled at the wolf and said, "It was my pleasure, Rolf." Rhea walked up to the girl next and said, "I am truly sorry for misjudging you. I was a bit on edge since those men started to attack." "Hey, it's okay. No harm done. And now that the dark warlocks are gone, you could all finally live in peace." Natalie replied before turning to Tristan, who walked up to the majestic lion. And walking up to the majestic lion, she replied to him, "Thank you for being my champion, Tristan, and sorry about your father." Tristan looked at the girl with kind eyes and replied, "It is not your fault, Natalie of Human Earth. It is my pleasure to serve in the war with you, and you will be very much missed." Natalie grinned at the lion and replied, "And I'll miss you, but please, call me Natalie." Tristan grinned at the girl and said, "As you wish, Natalie." Natalie turned to face Amelia, Madeline, and Aggerly before walking up to them. Aggerly was the first to speak. "It is a true honor to fight alongside you, Natalie." "Same to you, Aggerly. And looks like you and Madeline patched things up," Natalie said, noticing his arm around Madeline. Madeline replied with a smile of her own. "Yes, after the war is done, we rekindled our romance, now that the dark warlocks have perished." Amelia looked at the girl with a careful gaze and replied, "You truly are a brave and intelligent being, just like your mother." Natalie looked at Amelia with a stunned gaze, realizing what she meant, causing Natalie to stutter. You knew?" Amelia just chuckled in amusement and explained, "Of course I knew. I knew from the very first day we met you, after seeing those eyes, and seeing how you defended the lions from Zane. It is precisely what your mother would have done if she were here." "If you knew, why didn't you say anything before?" Natalie asked. "Because I thought you wouldn't believe me if I told you your true heritage to this world. And you would think it was all a ruse." but I'm rather glad that you accept where you came from, and your mother would be so proud of you," Amelia said, putting a hand on the girl's shoulder and pulled Natalie in for a hug. Natalie hugged her back before Amelia replied. Before Amelia whispered, "I will not doubt that you will return. You will always have a home here." Natalie pulled back from Amelia's embrace and turned to Madeline. She replied, "Bye, Madeline. Farewell, Natalie, and thank you for stopping Zane. I hope to see you again," Madeline said. Natalie nodded in agreement before she turned to Aggerly and said, "Take good care of her." Aggerly gave her a nod and answered, "I will love and protect her with my life." Natalie smiled at the remark until her eyes finally landed towards Cassius, who strolled over to the young girl. Cassius gazed into Natalie's eyes and replied, "I hope to our trio that your journey home will be in safe hands, and the destiny you now have will one day bring you back here." Natalie's smile changed to a saddened one before she said, "I hope so too." Cassius reciprocated Natalie's sad grin and replied, "I bid you a great farewell, child." Finally, Natalie turned to face Thomas, this time with tears in her eyes. However, neither of them said a word, because all Natalie did is run over to him and gave him the tightest hug she could muster. Thomas reciprocated the hug and felt every piece of his heart begin to shatter, as the thought of letting his daughter go became truly clear. Natalie managed to decisively say, her heartbreak showing in her voice, "I'll miss you, Father." Thomas began to choke up in tears and replied, "And I you, my sweet Natalie." Natalie pulled away with tears in her eyes and began to walk towards the cave before entering. She looked back at her new friends one last time, and a bittersweet smile grew on her face, as each human face, as well as a furry animal face, gave her a similar smile. But all of them, including Natalie, knew this wasn't goodbye. Finally, Natalie turned back and entered further into the cave until she disappeared into darkness, and within a few seconds, the cave disappeared into the ground, leaving only the clearing in the forest. Alright, that was chapter 13. One more chapter, and it will be all done. See you guys for the final one. Bye.